We already have almost 50 people listen to us. So yeah, let's make sure to address everyone's questions in the best possible way, as there were a lot of questions about migration. Yeah, let's start with the ones that were asked during the presentation and the demos I prepared for our audience. So the first one is that if we migrate gateways, will the V2 devices be able to receive uplinks and downlinks data?
Yeah.
So what do you guys say to that?
So initially at the conference in January and also the one about smart facilities, we said that we are not supporting that route and that we advise people to migrate end devices first and then the gateways. And then we figured that it's pretty challenging to coordinate that within communities. And so we made a change in our infrastructure, and we are now routing also data back from TTN v3 to v2. And that means that if that was my phone. If gateways are migrated from v2 to v3, they can the v3 endpoint is sending the data back to v2, so it is still feeding uplink traffic to devices that are not migrated yet, and that also works for downlink.
Yeah, I think most of our community members are going to be happy about this new feature.
Yeah, and it also decouples the order of migration, because you can now independently migrate gateways from end devices. So we can now basically say, okay, migrate your gateways, migrate your end devices. And
so the order of migration doesn't I mean, it's not relevant if you migrate your gateway or devices first. It kind of depends on what you want to do.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
That's very convenient, actually. And one question that was, asked a lot is about TTIG gateways. So. Yeah, when do you expect for them to be, be possible to migrate them?
So we are currently working on support for claiming those gateways. So the way it works is that Basic Station works a little bit differently. The things indoor gateways, they are programmed to get their configuration from a so-called CUPS endpoint, and that's part of Basic Station. And this CUPS endpoint currently redirects the gateways to v2. And we cannot, although we can, automatically migrate all the things indoor gateways right now to v3. That's not really nice, because people still expect their gateways to work in v2, right? So, and they also, they see the gateway status there, and we don't want to break any existing deployments. So people need to do the gateway migration themselves, although we can do it for them, of course. But for that, there needs to be support for claiming the gateway, because that's how Basic Station works. You need to prove that you own the gateway, for example, by entering the Wi-Fi password or whatever mechanism is used. And this is something that we're currently working on, that allows you to claim the gateway in v3, and then it tells that CUPS endpoint that the things indoor gateways are connected to connect the things indoor gateway to the right cluster, and that could be the things network v3 or the things stack cloud, or even an open source the things stack deployment that you are running. Whereas initially, or today, if you have the things indoor gateway, it only connects to the v2 community network. So we are working on this. Krishna had some details about this in his presentation earlier today. You can also watch that back on the on-demand stage. And I expect that we have support for this in our 3.14 version, which is I think expected in 4 weeks from now, that it would be able to claim the things indoor gateways.
Yeah. Okay. I promised some people that were asking questions about TTIGs that I'll push a notification to our documentation page that they should wait for a few more weeks, and then we will make sure to properly announce that. Okay, so one of the interesting questions that we got was if we would like to maintain all our existing applications with V2 forever, because we don't want to touch our end applications for any reason. What would you say to this, since we already broadcasted the information that V2 machines are going to shut down? I mean, everything that we can do, I guess, is to encourage people to migrate to V3, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's no reason to stay on V2 because there is no functionality now that we had in V2 that is not in V3. So we added in V3 the storage integration, we added the webhook templates. Some of them were missing still in V3, but everything is now there. So functionally, there is no reason to keep applications in V2. And we also give more than a year of time for people to migrate, and that should really be enough.
Yeah. Will the V3 keep supporting legacy packet forwarder, or will it be phased out to the basic station packet forwarder?
V3 is supporting the UDP packet forwarder still. We fortunately we see that basic station is getting more popular. But yeah, no, it's UDP is still supported, so all your gateways for which basic station is not available can still connect to V3.
Yeah, that's interesting because I used the UDP gateway for my demo too. So yeah, I mean, I showed that it still works even though I don't use LoRa basic station.
Yeah, just before we continue, I'm gonna jump in quickly on the current conversation that's now in the chat about the terminology, which is a really good point.
Yeah.
So we, myself, and also in the product team, we talk about V3 all the time, but that's just more a technical thing. And when we are in sessions like these, we automatically talk about V3 this and that, and V2, you know. But indeed, the product name is the thing stack. It is it's the third major version of what we built. That's why it's version 3. But the product name is the things stack, and what we run on the thing stack community edition. So that's also what you see in the console. So that is a product that we run, but the network, which is about who is operating it, and also what the gateways, who the gateways that are connected to it, the community network, that is called the Things Network. So if you log into the ThinkStack Community Edition, then you see also the logo, the Things Network, on the left, because it is a Things Network, but the product that you are using is the ThinkStack Community Edition. And if you see that, then you know you're using V3.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were confused by the terminology, but I guess, I mean, we explained that in our documentation page. We force people to use the things stack instead of V3 in order not to kind of spread around the confusion. But I guess, yeah, it will take some time until everyone starts using the official name instead of just V2 and V3. So one of the interesting questions is also, can I connect the things stack to Node-RED? So I can answer that. Yeah, there is a way. And yeah, Johan just posted a link to our documentation page where we explain how to connect the Ttig stack deployment to Node-RED and send uplinks and downlinks. So I guess that's it for that question. Next, what do we have there? Is shutting down of V2 only for TTN or also for private TTI instances?
We are shutting down TTI instances as well, so we still have a bunch of customers that are using our private V2, but most of them are already migrated to the Ttig Stack Cloud. There are still also some customers still working on their migration, but the dates that we mention about V2 becoming read-only, so the community network and also unavailable, that is really about the community network. So if you're listening now and if you're a V2 private network customer, those dates do not apply to you.
Yeah, and one thing that's also interesting to maybe repeat that I mentioned a few times during my session was that the session migration via packet broker is available for private TTI instances to the Ttig Stack Cloud. But those users will need to kind of have a ticket for it or contact our support. It is not available by default, right?
Yeah. So we work on a customer by customer case basis to see what the best way of migrating is. But we have a few more migration options available to them because they are already using their private def address block, and that makes the routing via packet broker much easier.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting to remember because community members might expect for session migration to work via packet broker, but in fact, it is not available for.
Yeah, and also maybe it's good to a little bit on the background on why we don't support session migration. So why you cannot migrate your device with the whole session, so with the device address and the session keys from V2 to V3. The reason is that packet broker is all these clusters, all these regional clusters are using their own device address blocks. So you see that with the start of the device address, so 2601 is Europe, for example, and 2 and 3, and we have lots of blocks assigned. And packet broker is basically sending the traffic to the network server clusters based on that device address. And with the Ttig Stack Community Edition, so the new V3 environment, we started issuing new device address blocks that are solely used by the new clusters. And a packet broker is only routing those messages with those device address blocks to the clusters that they are associated with. And technically, we can send all the traffic from that has a V2 device address also to V3 clusters. We can do that. But we decided not to do that because that is a lot of traffic and that is just super expensive, and because of all the bandwidth and compute resources that we need, because then we are basically running two super large networks side by side. It's just not feasible to do that. So that's the reason.
Yeah, I hope people will understand that and just
it's still a free service, and TTN is already expensive enough to operate.
Yeah, definitely. So let's see what we have further. Does anyone know is TTN mapper will be migrated to V3, or if a compatibility layer could perhaps be created so no migration would be needed?
I have to check with JP Meijers, the author of TTN Mapper to see what the status is, but I do know that we have a TTN Mapper integration in the console. So you can already start mapping your devices if they are migrated to the ThinkStack Community Edition. As for the gateway map and the gateway statuses, that is currently not updated yet. So if you migrate gateways away from v2 to v3, then they will disappear from the gateway map as we have them now also on the thingsnetwork.org. And that's actually currently my number one priority, to make sure that we have a global map of all the gateways that are connected to any network, public and private networks. And so we are also working with the YP to make the API available to them so that they can update the gateway map. But yeah, end-device mapping is already working.
Yeah, so TTN Mapper is in progress. We should soon have the same functionality as we had with V2, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. If TTN v3 node transmits via TTN v3 gateway, I don't see the location in the TTN v3 JSON MQTT metadata. I suppose this is for gateways, as it is a known thing. This used to be a part of the TTN v2 metadata, and we use it to monitor the availability of our gateways. Will this be part of the TTN v3 metadata in the near future? The gateway location.
Yeah, I think come up quite a few times, and it's mostly a trade-off between how large the size of the metadata we include with every uplink message is versus the the information that some integrations need. So you already have users that rightly say that, okay, the metadata is large enough already, and why do I need all this? And then you have use cases like this where one more metadata field would be very useful. I mean, the response to that is that if the gateway location does not change, then you don't really need it with with every single uplink message. But then that depends on what you're trying to do, right? I suppose, if I understand the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if we actually made a really conscious decision about this, but indeed I agree that we started with a very lean metadata, and we are conscious with all the metadata that we add to every uplink message because it because of the bandwidth that it generates. I don't see currently on a quick glance if we have an issue open about this. But yeah, the way it works usually with feature requests is that you can file an issue in our LoRaWAN stack repository on GitHub, and then we have a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the question a few times before the event. So either there is an issue already for it, or we got such proposals. I mean, beyond filing issues, maybe in person or something. So yeah, I mean, I can take care of filing the issue if there isn't anything similar that's requested at the moment. But yeah, an interesting question for sure. So one question also says, when did Johan last get any sleep? Yeah, we can hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I've been it's been quite busy, but thanks, Nick. You're also looking great today. I'm going on holiday tomorrow, so that's indeed well deserved.
Good to hear that. We would like to go to a holiday also, right, Aggelos?
Yeah.
But we had to work.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
you can request one. Now I look like a really terrible boss, but you can
Yeah.
request a holiday if you want.
I wanted to achieve that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we have any more question. Top Daika says, I have a question not related to migration. It is mentioned on TTN website that the Things Fundamentals certification is free for the Things Stack conference visitors. How can we access it? At the moment, it's only possible via payment. Do we have any information about that? The thing certification, yeah. Maybe Sharon can address that question as it's not related to
Yeah, Lawrence is
migration.
also here in the chat. He also knows.
Yeah.
So Lawrence, if you want to answer that question, then please.
Mhm. Do you have documentation on how hobbyists can connect Arduino baseboards to the Things stack, how to configure end devices in the console, dev EUI, etc. Things to be aware of in the device code, and so on. So what I can say for the documentation page is that we currently don't have many example projects documented at the moment for V3, but we are working on um, um, like addressing every guide that we had for V2 for those hobbyist boards and such stuff, to kind of recreate those to be used with the Things stack or V3, whatever. So I guess in the near future we should have a lot of content like that, and at least provide some support for hobbyists also, right? So yeah, let's get on the next question. In many real applications, for example, in urban environments, the signal strength changes depending on the weather and such stuff. In the border area, ADR is too slow and packets are lost. Is an adjustment of the ADR function provided to minimize the packet loss?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we do have an issue in we are tracking on ADR profiles because we also know that there is not a one particular algorithm that is solving all the use cases. Indeed, sometimes you really want to optimize for battery life, and in that case, you may want to go to a high data rate, still reaching, for example, one gateway. But maybe you have a certain quality of service requirement that you want to have some margin in there, or you want to use some geolocation where you need as many metadata as possible, so you have a lower data rate even. So we have, apart from the ability to configure the ADR algorithm for a particular goal. That is something that we're adding, but it's a little bit more complicated. We now have the ability to set the data rate ranges within which ADR is going to work. So if you can set a minimum and a maximum data rate. So you can, for example, say, okay, my ADR algorithm may not send this end device beyond SF8, so not to SF7, for example.
Okay, so that's one more thing that we are trying to address at the moment. One thing that Jeff UK just wanted me to remind everyone is that our The Things Network Forum is a great resource. because it contains a lot of content related to migration and all kinds of stuff. I mean, the experiences from experienced developers, but also hobbyists and all kinds of people can be found there. And a lot of stuff that is maybe currently not documented yet will for sure be available on the forum. So if anyone has any issues and doesn't maybe want to file an official issue in our repository, then please go to the Things Network forum and check the experiences there, and maybe try finding an answer to your problem. Because there is a 99% chance that you will find your answer on the forum, as our moderators are really active and taking care of responding people's questions really regularly. So yeah, let's address a few more questions, and I guess we will soon be. Next question is, one of the most common gateways used, and that is MikroTik WVAP, would need to release any firmware update in order to work with the ThingStack Community Edition, because it uses legacy packet forwarder, or should it just point to the new console address? Is that going to be enough? Do you know, is the plan for them to release any upgrade and to update to basic station? So, I mean, I really don't know if their plan is to upgrade their firmware to basic station, but I guess nothing more complicated than pointing to the ThingStack Community Edition server address would be necessary, right?
Yeah, also don't forget to register the gateway on the gateway itself so that it connects properly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay, TTN mapper questions are already answered. Can I connect to Node-RED? That is also already answered. Is there a plan to migrate the UK digital catapult gateways to V3?
I honestly don't know what the status is with the UK cluster. So I don't know. We need to check that.
Okay. I'm just a second. How does one know the Laravel version that we already answered? How are the experimental nodes handled with 0001 device address? Do I recall that they are not permitted for packet broker routing?
Yeah. So the experimental so NetIDs 00 and 01, they you can recognize devices or sessions with device address starting also with those numbers. They are not routed to any cluster by packet broker, and that is because they are not. There's no with them. So anyone can use those device addresses, and they have been used mostly for experimental use, and that's also what they are intended for. But also sometimes there are end devices that are, for example, commissioned by a device maker for use with ABP, and then because they don't know on which network they are going to be used, they use the experimental ranges, and that's really not a good idea because in this case, for example, we are not routing that. So it is legal to use those 0001 device addresses. The only way this is working is that the gateways that are covering those devices, they need to be connected to the same cluster as where the network server is, where these devices are registered. And so the route through packet broker is not going to work. But if the gateway is directly connected to the same v3 region, then it is working. That is actually true for any device address, even device addresses with different net IDs, or if you are migrating from another network, devices with a valid device address, that also works in the ThingStack Community Edition. But again, only if the gateways that are covering your devices are connected directly to that v3 region.
Okay. What if we are trying to determine the GPS location of the end nodes? For that, it's important to get GPS information from the gateway.
Yeah.
So it is important to get the information like in V2.
So yeah, this is, I think, is related to the location in the uplink message. So we have a new message type in v3. It's called location solved, and as soon as when there is a location known for the end device, that message is sent. And this goes typically through geolocation solvers like LoRa Edge, so the GNSS or Wi-Fi lookup. So we don't include the device location in every uplink message. If you configure the end device location in the console and put it on the map, then the way to get that location would be through the API. It's just to get the just contact the identity server through REST API and get the location. We don't include it in every uplink message, and that's again the same reason as we don't include the gateway location. It's just to save bandwidth.
Yeah, just to repeat, the location solved message type is in detail documented on our documentation page, so feel free to visit our page, and if you still have any questions, just
there is also a sign on here. So one of the things that was also requested was that if you, for example, register a device through the device repository, then the brand and the model and the version is known. And there was a lot of demand for including that also in the uplink message, so that the application layer knows also which brand and model the device is. And so we added that based on community demand. So that is now part of every uplink message. And yeah, again, if you guys need the coordinates of the end device, if you configure that in the console, for example, or if you put the device on the map, if you need that in every uplink message, and the same if you need the gateway location in every uplink message, just file an issue on GitHub, and we can definitely have a look at it, because I'm certainly not against it. It's just that we don't want to blindly add lots of metadata, just increasing bandwidth if there's no real demand for it.
Yes. Okay, an interesting question. When will support for creating and generating dev EUI in the V3 console become available? So it is something that is landing soon, right?
Yeah, I think that got already merged. So I think it's going to be in 3.13.1.
Yeah, the next release.
It's the next release. We're releasing that. We're testing that next week, and then the week after we deploy it. That's the plan.
Yeah. I see TTIGs will be server migrated. How will original TGWs be handled? Kickstarter in parentheses.
They will be so the things in our gateways will be all the gateways will be migrated by the end of this year. Either we do that through the server, so that's Basic Station, we can do that.
For UDP, we are considering to change the DNS so that the gateways are directly connected to the v3 endpoints. When they restart and they resolve a new IP address, they will automatically resolve the v3 IP address. For the other gateways that are directly connected to v2, and for instance, those gateways using MQTT, it's not really easy to change DNS because they are verifying the host that they are connected to, just just a standard TLS verification. So we keep forwarding all that traffic to Packet Broker. So when we say we shut down v2, we refer to the v2 routing services, so the router, broker, handler, console, account server. But the gateways that are still connected to v2 endpoints that we cannot migrate ourselves, that gateway coverage will be available in v3 through Packet Broker.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be no loss of coverage, and this is already configured, and we keep this up and running for until the end of time, basically.
Okay. So I see one more question that we should answer, and the rest is more or less just a discussion about previous questions. So will it be better to use the GPS sensors on the end nodes, or is the geolocation better if the area is a park? So basically, what is better, a GPS sensor or a geolocation?
Yeah, so well, I'm actually quite impressed by the performance of Wi-Fi lookup. But yeah, it's especially in cities, it's really accurate. Also indoor. So, but it really depends on the use case. I think that LoRa time difference on arrival works as well, but it's not accurate at all, and it requires also gateways to produce fine timestamps. So those are mostly the more expensive class of gateways. If you really need accurate location and your device is always outside, then GPS is obviously the way to go.
Yeah, so I just want to mention something, and then I guess we can call it up. So when we were testing the LoRa cloud integration, we were really impressed by how accurate the geolocation, Wi-Fi geolocation is, because it was really super accurate, and we didn't expect it to be. And it even gave almost a better result, at least for me, than my GPS sensor, which is, I don't know why or how, but it was more accurate. I guess it depends on the Wi-Fi networks that are around you, and on the other hand, on the position of the satellites and the latest latency and stuff that's related to GPS. Yeah. So I guess that would be it for this Q&A. I want to thank everyone who has been with us and who watched our session on migration. So if you have any more questions, we will be happy to answer them. So you can use the Things Network forum or our repositories to file issues and stuff. So yeah, okay, I see Johan already started celebrating the end of this.
Kevin
yeah.
brought me beer.
Yeah. Okay. Then thanks everyone, and cheers, Johan, and see you on the next event.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.